Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Hope everyone is doing okay this early Saturday morning. I got a few shows in yesterday, but I knew I was going to be doing shows today, so I didn't do too many yesterday. Guy McPherson is going to be on the show this morning. Always check your mic. Always check your mic. Guy McPherson, he's a climatologist, physicist, scientist, I believe Arizona University professor emeritus in climate science. He will be on here 10 a.m. our time. He is going to give a hair-raising conversation, let's say it that way. Physicists have been downplaying the results. He is not. And he is going to give what's, to some degree, is an extinction level event from the standpoint of climate change, making an argument that physicists or that people who are doing climate are not fully taking into account the forces that are going to take place in the sense of runaway and abrupt climate change. They're believing that it's always going to be this steady tick. It's an estimation. His thing is, and the problem with that kind of estimation is it doesn't take into account certain things that may cause jerks or spikes in temperature on this planet, and that will have deleterious effects for the rest of life, including us on planet Earth. He will be here at 10 a.m. Before I fully get started, I want to thank everyone who helps with the channel. This month is going to be Patron Appreciation Month, and each week we've been doing a contest for all of our patrons, where we will pull a t-shirt. That's the first point. And in the other case, the t-shirt thing is going to be today. The second one is going to be having to do with allowing the patrons and donations, or people who give donations, to choose a video. Essentially, what do you want to talk about in the video? Now, this usually devolves into us talking about pretty much anything. But it starts off with a topic that's chosen for one of the patrons. So far it's been pretty good. I think it's been pretty good. I need to come up with a better structure for it. But otherwise, I think the audience has been, the participation has been pretty decent. So there's that. In the last announcement, that vulgar link at the bottom, or description at the bottom, click link in the description box for Super Chat Alternative. That looks a bit tacky. I don't particularly like it. I need to come up with something else, but I don't necessarily know another way off the top of my head to communicate it. Ultimately, Super Chat is disabled for this particular channel. It will be at least until September. An alternative is in the box. It uses PayPal, so it's nothing shady, but it's a little Star Trek icon will come up and dance and shake. If you feel the need, the want, for whatever reason you're striked to give to the channel. And this is, again, not a prod to do so. This is just a heads up on what that thing is in the bottom of the screen and why it's there. So, dovetailing nicely into the topic I'm going to have with, dovetailing nicely with the topic that I'm going to have with Guy McPherson, dealing with climate and environment and everything else. We have an interesting development from the DNC, and not just the DNC, the head of the DNC, Mr. Dancing Man Tom Perez. I've made the contention as a flat fact, or at the very least, from what we come across and our understanding of the world, and for the people who understand that world, take measurements, weigh, experiment, using the scientific method, have come to the conclusion, the stark, unimpeachable conclusion, at the very least at this point, until some other science comes along that blows us away. There's a bomb on the bus. There's an asteroid that is about to hit the planet. Now, the reason why this isn't necessarily the most obvious thing in the world and that people don't get behind this is because people have their daily lives. If Bob is focused on his survival, Bob is not necessarily fully caring about the fact that there's a bomb on the bus and there's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet, especially if he can't see the asteroid. If he has to be told about the asteroid through other sources, Yes, sources under normal circumstances he trusts. But the thing is, if him responding to that asteroid, if him responding to the bomb on the bus means that he needs to do something different in his life, he may be disinclined to do so if his survival is at stake. And if he has to deal with the basic needs of, I need to eat, I need to get health care for my kids, I need to get education for my kids, I need to make a life. And there's all these people with their hands in my pockets as I go from point A to point B, from the cradle to my grave. What about the political class? The political class, at least the Republican Party says, it doesn't exist. Climate change doesn't exist. Now, they say this for similar reasons that Bob ignores this. It's not that Bob disbelieves this. Bob just can't focus on this because Bob has things that he has to do within his immediate environment. The Republican Party, however, is flushed with cash. They have all the money in the world, and they represent and protect all the money in the world, or at least half of it. I'm being hyperbolic here, so don't take me as being exact, but I'm not that far away from the truth. Their vested interest is to say it doesn't exist. There's no conflict at all in that statement. It doesn't exist, so we don't have to do anything about it, so the world can keep ticking along the way it is. Let's go gangbusters. Here's the catch, though. The Democratic Party is, in this case, different and more ridiculous. They say, with one resounding voice, we believe in science. We're the party that believes in science. God damn it, we believe in science. The scientific method is our friend. We keep it in our pocket as we go about this country. We believe in science. At the exact same token, you would have a candidate who would be supporting fracking all across the planet. I don't understand how these two things coincide with one another, and how you could say both of these things with a complete and straight face. Particularly not realizing that both of these things eat one another. Methane, from the standpoint of fracking, is prodigiously just as bad, if not worse, than the other methods of oil production or getting oil out the ground. That's known, and yet Democrats push it. Like, it's one thing if you put your green energy deal and you try to bring down what you're doing from the standpoint of coal and gas. And what you find is that what they're going for, this tepid, green deal or whatever, this tepid, it's not even a green deal, this tepid Paris climate, is not enough. It's not enough. So people will say, well, yeah, but it's incremental. But so what if it's incremental if it's not enough? It costs $5 to buy this. I have $3. So yeah, the world is great. No, it costs $5 to buy this. If scientists are telling you your world is falling apart, that there's a bomb on a bus, that there's an asteroid that's about to hit the planet, don't take their word for it. Wildfires, gangbusters in Greece. What? All of these people died from that. Same thing, wildfires, gangbusters in California. They're using child prison labor to fight those forest fires. Yes, they are. You have, and this is not just in those two spots. This is all across the world. London, experiencing a heat wave year after year after year. Hottest time on the planet. Carbon in our atmosphere is at levels, if I'm not mistaken, like hundreds of thousands of years prior. This doesn't get into this idea of, carbon pushing the nutritional content in our food down. This doesn't get into this thing of the jet stream shutting down. And Guy McPherson is going to make the argument at 10 o'clock that we're talking about extinction level events based on human behavior on this planet. What would be the reason? What would be the impetus for a party that says they believe in science to look over the abyss and come back saying, we believe in science, but we have caveats on the thing of saying believe in science? Even when the statement of I believe in science is this kind of conflation to I believe in climate change. And in I believe in climate change, I believe that there's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet, because these guys are continuously telling me there's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. And I've seen the planet that I live on get more hostile year after year after year. And they're telling us it's something that we're doing. Take a look at this. I frame it that way because I think that's what it boils down to. They're telling us that we are destroying our environment. And this is where we are. Take a look at what took place. This was a day or so ago. DNC considers reversing ban on fossil fuel donations. Now, a ban on a donation is not the same thing as getting rid of and dealing with climate change. So don't misunderstand me. I have no illusions that both of those things are the exact same thing. There is something, however, symbolic about this thing of saying, look, we get what the base is telling us. We get it. Now, granted, I don't know why this needs to be a thing for the base. I don't know why this isn't just this basic, we believe in climate change because we believe in science, and science is not a political thing. But whatever. We believe in climate change. We believe in doing something about it. And so we are going to put a ban on donations. Again, the reason why the ban on donations, yes, is some degree symbolic, but to some degree not, is because you don't want people who are in industries that are tanking the world to be able to donate and influence your political class. That's why. But I would argue that that should be a reason for all donations from corporate sources to be banned. Understand what I'm saying? If you're going to admit, if you're going to agree, yes, we're going to ban these sources. Why are you banning those sources? We're banning those sources because we don't want to take money from sources that deal with issues of climate or that's making the issue of climate worse. We believe in science, we believe in climate change, and as believing in science and climate change, we believe that human behavior is deleterious to this planet, and we're going to do something about it. Great. Great. We're not going to take money from those sources, and we're not going to take money from those sources because we don't want to undue influence from those sources. That seems to set the precedent that corporate sources in and of itself control some level of influence on your political class. And the question is, how much of that influence do you want on your political class in comparison to the influence that you want on the people who are voting for them? That's a side point. They get rid of, I guess you can say, corporate PACs, or they ban it. And lo and behold, August 10th, yesterday, they reversed the ban. Dancing man Tom Perez reverses the ban. I want to go into the reasons that he's given for reversing this ban, but this is somewhat of a ludicrous prospect. Yes, a ban on donations is not, we're going to fix climate change. A ban on donations is to some degree symbolic, saying that the party cares about this and that the party is not going to take money from those sources. What on earth does reversing that ban means? What does it mean? Let's listen to his excuse, and his excuse is absurd. And Huffington Post nails why his excuse is absurd. I want to read this from two articles. So the first article is The Hill. DNC considers reversing ban on fossil fuel donations. Let's get the basics. The Democratic National Committee is planning to vote on a measure that would overturn its recently adopted policy rejecting donations from fossil fuel companies, political organizations. The resolution, sponsored by DNC Chairman Tom Perez, frames the controversy as one over labor rights, saying the party values workers and welcomes the long-standing generous contributions of workers, including those in energy and related industries, who organize and donate to the Democratic candidates individually or through their unions or employers' political action committees. Now, let's go to Huffington Post, who seems to have a little bit more feelings about this. The Democratic Party National Committee plans to vote on reversing Friday's afternoon. Activists say effectively reverses the ban on fossil fuel companies' donations, Huffington Post has learned. The proposal, introduced by DNC Chairman Tom Perez, states that the party supports fossil fuel workers and will accept donations from employers' political action committees. Just 2 months after adopting a resolution prohibiting donations from fossil fuel companies in a unanimous vote, the resolution nods to forward-looking employers that powering America's all of the above political and economy and moving towards the future fueled by clean and low-emission energy technology, from renewables to carbon capture to storage and advanced nuclear technology. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, ultimately, you're reversing your ban. Why did you do the ban in the first place? And now you're reversing it. The original resolution, which Tom Perez voted for in June, barred the organization from accepting contributions from corporate political action committees tied to oil, gas, coal companies, but it allowed for DNC to continue accepting individual donations from workers in those industries, meaning the workers in those industries still could donate. Tom Perez's point here, that is one about labor, is nonsense. The original resolution still allowed for DNC to continue to accept individual donations from workers in those industries. Those workers could still donate. This is not an issue of workers, because if it was, those workers could still donate. The strength of the fossil fuel donations ban seemed in question almost immediately after it passed. The DNC refused to announce the resolution, declining to even comment to Huffington Post for a story that made the vote public. Essentially, Huffington Post made the story public. They ran the story. They asked the DNC to comment. The DNC didn't want to comment on it. Early on, it was in question or whether or not the resolution was going to stand. Here's another interesting point. Party activists, including Christine Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, the main author of the resolution, and House Minority Leaders Nancy Pelosi's daughter, hoped the DNC would consider a second proposal this month to stop accepting contributions over $200 from individuals who work for the fossil fuel industry. That, the thinking went, would limit the influence of high-paid executives while remaining open to the working-class Democrat aim to champion. They don't aim to champion. That's the point. That's the point I continuously make. The things that they say to you are the things necessary to get your vote. That is different than them actually representing your interests. If you have to fight this hard, why do you have to fight this hard? You have to fight this hard because they're not representing your interests. They don't care to represent your interests. They're not in your ballpark. They're a different party. You're supporting this party because you believe the Republican Party is insane. That's a different thing than supporting this party because you believe this party represents your interests. Those are very different. There's a bomb on a bus. There's an asteroid that's going to hit the planet. And the Democratic Party, even with the tepid symbolic things that they had pushed forward from the standpoint of that resolution, they've now gone back on even that, even the tepidness of that, to undermine their own idea. Nancy Pelosi's daughter was pissed off. Good on her for being pissed off and recognizing for what it is. And even as a fallback position, right here, is trying to get this. Would they consider a second revolution to stop contributions over $200? It doesn't sound like it. But would they consider reversing the ban? Tom Perez put it out. We'll see. I'm inclined to say yes. I'm inclined to say yes. Dancing, man. Tom Perez dancing again. Dancing again. All right, guys. I'm going to end this here. If you enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks, guys.